Back in the dark ages of my youth, when I was a penniless graduate student, rather than spend money on a mechanic, I undertook the challenge of rebuilding the carburetor of my car. The car was an inexpensive entry-level import, and because most mechanics I had dealt with failed to impress me with their intellect, I theorized I could do the job myself. Because I was a student and rather bookish, I went to the library first, found a manual on my car, and read about how to do the job. When I came to the part about the carburetor, I was stunned. During the year my car was built, the manufacturer, Nissan, had made 4 very significant modifications to the carburetor it used in the model I had. With each modification, the car's fuel economy and power improved. But the rebuild kit for each of these carburetors was different. Until I took my car apart, which would leave me no way to get to the auto parts store, I would be unable to tell which kit I needed to buy. At the time, I remember being astounded by the fact that the manufacturer was continuing to modify, innovate really, throughout the model year. In my naive way, I had assumed that once a car had been introduced, the automaker would leave it alone. But innovation is a curious thing. True, many of us love to tinker with things, but the engineers at a major Japanese car company? Why were they tinkering? Over time, I began to appreciate what Dean Kamen, the inventor and author of the first piece in this section, takes for granted. Innovation for its own sake is not a very productive use of anybody's time or money. But innovation to improve a product's function, to make it fulfill a customer's or client's need, is a very smart use of capital. This notion was brought into sharp relief to me by a historical example. During a visit with my son to colonial Williamsburg, Virginia, we went to the magazine where British troops stored their weapons. Our guide, dressed as a British soldier, explained to us that the primary British weapon of the day, a musket, stayed in production for nearly 200 years. During that time, the gun, which was made by hand in cottages and small shops, continued to be produced almost unchanged. Then, sometime after the Revolutionary War, the musket was abandoned and a new gun was introduced. The reason why the musket stayed in production so long was simply that it did its job. Until the Revolutionary War, accompanied by the American invention of mass production, the standard-issue British musket had no peer, and the British Empire had little competition. So why tinker with success? Today, in a world of intense competition, we are in a period where the customer's needs must be identified and fulfilled. To do that may mean refining the design of a carburetor, a fuel injector, or even a service offering 4 or more times in a year. The point is, nothing remains static for very long, least of all the way we please customers. Without innovation, the customer or client is likely to leave us in the dust. J.K. People don't buy inventions or technology. They buy innovations that solve problems. Dean Kamen. Perhaps no other corporate mandate has received as much attention over the past decade as innovation. In the ever-increasing competitive landscape brought about by globalization, companies have spent ceaselessly and exorbitantly in the search for the next best thing, be it product or service. Innovate or die has become the watchword for a vast number of industry sectors, and even in a soft economy, most corporations continue to brag about their firm commitment to research and development. Despite this crush of interest in innovation and the endless flood of new products and services into the marketplace, there remains a significant lack of understanding about innovation. The best business person in the world can't sell something the world isn't ready to use. People don't buy inventions. They don't buy technology. They buy a solution to a perceived problem. And if you have the greatest solution in the world and people don't perceive it as the answer to their problem, they are not going to buy it. Indeed, throughout history there has been a great deal of confusion about the differences between invention and innovation. Misconceptions about the invention process track straight into the dearth of understanding about when an invention becomes an innovation. As an inventor, I've always been amazed at people's misunderstanding of what I do. The public always loves the easy, one-shot answer. You can tell by their questions that they really believe I went to bed one night, got up the next morning, and instead of making toast, invented the Segway human transporter or the iBot mobility system. I must have leaped out of bed with the concept completely defined in my head, right down to the decals. Invention is a difficult, messy process, more an evolution than a revolution. Inspiration may be of the moment, but bringing the inspiration to reality is usually a long, painful, expensive process. You end up iterating again and again and again. You make 5 different wrong turns that get you to the same place you were at 6 months ago. And after all the conceiving, designing, building, refining, and polishing, an invention remains a great distance from an innovation. In their best-selling book, Built to Last, James Collins and Jerry Porras suggested, try a lot of stuff and keep what works. Having examined countless visionary companies known for innovations such as 3M, Hewlett-Packard, and Johnson & Johnson, the authors were struck by how often these companies made some of their best moves not by detailed strategic planning, but rather by experimentation, trial and error, opportunism, and, quite literally, accident.